beautiful boss laymates, it's me, Aisha, your favorite boutique consultant, and this video we are going to talk about the few things. I didn't have a certain number or a certain order. The things that I have learned while being in business for almost 3 years. As you all know, I started my boutique July 2nd, 2017. And so I am 3.5 years in. So I wanted to just do a video where I just share everything that I have learned from A to Z. So like I said, these are in no particular order. It was just how I thought of them. So don't think that one is more important than the other. I'm just going down how I thought of it, okay? All right, so first thing I learned is that we're going to talk about support. I learned fairly quickly that you should not depend on your friends for support or family, but whereas like with me, with my family, that wasn't really a big deal. My family supports me in everything that I do. Just that I didn't think that they would purchase things from me anyway. Whereas, you know, they did, like my handbags and things of that nature, but the things that I sell, some of my family members would not buy them. And then plus I'm also the oldest cousin on both of my, both sides, like for my parents. So some things, you know, whatever. Family wasn't a big deal for me. It was friends and associates, people that I knew, that I had a hard time for like the first couple months. And it hurt my feelings a little. And then after I thought about it, I was like, okay, so Nisha, what is your goal? What's your end goal? When I thought about my end goal of me wanting to be a boutique where celebs frequent, where I am known throughout, you know, the nation and internationally, I was like, okay, so if that's my goal, why am I worried about family and friends supporting me, or more so friends supporting me and associates, people in my hometown that know me? That's not going to make me money. That's not going to sustain me. That's not going to help me with a boutique to get me to where I want to go. Those little people around here, that's not going to help me. You know what I'm saying? So after I thought about that, I fairly quickly got over that. So don't just depend on family and friends for support immediately. There are going to be, you know, some people that are going to support you. Great. Then you're going to get some who aren't going to support you. And that's just fine, because at the same time, not everyone sells things that we want to get. Like, I never bought any of that tea stuff that people were selling. I don't really buy Avon, paparazzi. I don't really buy certain things, you know, that people sell like that. So I thought about it in that way too. Like, not everyone is going to like what I sell. So other people can support you in other ways. They can share your posts. They can like your stuff. They can comment on it. That boosts up your engagement on Instagram. So don't just think that people have to buy from you and that's support. Okay. So next I learned, I'm sorry, I have a whole long list over here, so I have to keep looking at it. So next I learned, which I already knew because I am already like this by nature, but I learned that planning and organization are essential to running a business, which, like I said, I am an organized person by nature. I'm a planner by nature. I love I love to-do lists. I love to check things off. My closet is organized. Back in high school, my CDs were organized by artist and by CD, like the album when it came out. Like, I'm a very organized and planning person. So I had all of that done from the jump. I was very organized on how I launched. I was very planned. Everything was strategic in how I moved. But I still want to let you all know that planning and organization are essential when you are launching and when you are growing and trying to maintain. So make sure that you are planning things out, because you never know what may happen. And also make sure you are organized, especially if you have another job while you are starting your boutique. You need to make sure you are organized and you have lists and certain days where you designate to do certain things, other than, of course, shipping out your items. Next, I did learn fairly early. You need to learn how to pivot, or have a plan B and a plan C, plan D, however many plans you need to have, but you especially need to learn how to pivot. I think a lot of people learned about that last year during the pandemic when it started, but I learned it fairly early because those of you all who don't know my story, I got banned on Facebook for right at 2 years for business Facebook rather. So I got banned on business Facebook. So what happened was, let me move this. My hair is just getting on my nerves. So what happened was, someone was a hater and kept reporting a lot of my posts. So after reporting my business posts, so what ended up happening was Facebook just banned me because they thought that I was spamming, which I was not. It's just that somebody literally was a hater and kept reporting all of my posts on my personal page that were about business that I shared, and well, my business, and then ones on my boutique page, they just kept reporting things. So it got to the point where I couldn't post on business pages at all. I couldn't be an admin. I couldn't do anything dealing with business. So that was how I ended up turning to Instagram and learning how to use Instagram. And now I love Instagram and hate Facebook. But I understood that I had to pivot. I could not depend on Facebook. I wasn't big on Instagram at the time. But once I learned how to pivot, boom, I got it. Attention all boutique owners, are you struggling, frustrated, overwhelmed, not getting any sales? Well, let me, Ikenisha, help you. I want you all to join my 5-day boutique intensive. That's right, you will be able to learn the 5 pillars that I concentrate on to gain website traffic, sales, and so much more. But you have to act fast because I'm only accepting 15 students, and this does start February 8th. So click the link in the description box and join me. So, next, I learned that it is okay to make mistakes. I didn't make that many. Like, I tell people that all the time, and so many people find it hard to believe that I didn't make that many, but because I understood about planning and organizing, I didn't make that many mistakes. But I did learn that when I did make mistakes, because I am a huge perfectionist, it was okay to make those mistakes, learn from them, grow from them, keep it moving. So don't be too hard on yourself when you make a mistake. Okay, if you have started off doing things that I've said you shouldn't do, it's okay. You had to learn from it. So now you know what not to do, and you can keep on going and grow from that. So once again, make mistakes. You have to know what you don't. You have to know what not to do by a lot of times doing it. Next, you have to be open-minded. I'm telling you, you have to be open-minded. That is the sign of an entrepreneur and a great entrepreneur and a leader. If you are open-minded, you have to know when to take constructive criticism from people, when to understand that you may need help, when to understand you may need to, maybe get on YouTube and listen to someone else, take a master class or something like that. But you have to be open-minded and understand that maybe what you thought you knew is not correct, or that you may need help because you are doing something incorrectly and not knowing that you're doing it incorrectly. So yes, please have an open mind, because a lot of times things change, and in any type of business, especially a small business, things are constantly changing, which learning how to pivot comes into play. Next, this one was super important. I learned that networking is important, which once again, I already knew that because of my previous experience, but I learned that networking on social media, especially Instagram, is highly important. I was able to network a lot when I started 2017 and all of 2018, and then part of 2019. That was a lot that I did. And I was able to meet some influential people. I was able to get contacts in certain parts of this business. I have a strong network that I'm super proud of, that I was able to build just from doing things on Instagram. And I know I would not have met them if I didn't know how to pivot. So next, this one was a hard one for me, but I did it. You have to learn how to master one thing at a time. I am a busybody. I am someone who loves to multitask. I like doing a bunch of things at one time. When I started, I wanted to, sell everything that women would wear, from head to toe. And then I wanted to go into men's and kids. And then I wanted to help people and, starting the holistic thing like I'm doing now. But I was trying to do too much at one time. I was trying to do all this in like December of 2017 and then like January 2018. Like, I hadn't been in business that long to really master everything I needed to master just from selling women's clothing first. So now that I have mastered that, I was able to move on to the assistants. Once I got really good at that, I moved on to YouTube. When I got really good at that, I started going into looking at men's and wholesale and kids and everything else I've been wanting to do. So you have to take a step back, understand that just because you're doing okay or that people are asking you for help, it doesn't mean that you should go ahead and do that. Just because people are asking you doesn't mean it's a good idea. So people were asking me for help. I could help them, but at the same time, my business started to struggle because I was doing way too much stuff. So master one thing at a time, become really good at it no matter how long it takes, then move on to the next. If you are wanting to incorporate more categories into your business, and let's say you're just starting out with just clothing and you want to incorporate maybe shoes or accessories, get really good at the clothing first, then slowly bring in the accessories or the shoes or another like category like men's or kids or something like that. But you need to do one thing at a time. Next, I learned, which I already knew just because of experience, that models matter. So I preach this all the time. Y'all already know. I'm not going to go in depth about this. Your models matter. You have to make sure that your model represents the customer that you are selling to. If your customer cannot relate to your model, they are not going to buy. A lot of times people can come to a boutique's page, whether it's their website or on Instagram, and your page can look spammy because you don't have models, because you may be using stolen pictures, or you're using vendor photos not knowing that the vendor is using stolen photos. So your models matter. Once I started, when I got out of drop shipping and I started using my models now and me modeling my own clothes, my clothing sold even quicker because most of my customers are Black, so therefore my models were Black. I have a lot of plus size customers. I have a plus size model. So you have to make sure that you're reading the room. If your customers are ABC, then you need to have models that represent ABC. That's it. Next, I learned that traveling is essential. I have always loved to travel. I've been wanting to move to Atlanta for years, like 6-7 years. Stuff just always happens and I just never make it down there, but I'm down there a lot for work. But yeah, I've just never been able to move down there, which not a big deal. But anyway, tying into the traveling is events are a must. So events and traveling are essential because that ties into your networking. It helps you grow. It broadens your brand awareness. So I highly recommend traveling outside of your hometown to do events. Majority of the events that I did were not around in my hometown. I've done a ton of events in Atlanta. I've done events in other states. I've done events where they were an hour or two away from my house. I've done events where they cost like $25 to set up to $350 to set up. So you have to make sure as well that when you are doing events, that you research them. You need to research and make sure it is where your customer will be, because if you are at an event and the particular customer that you sell to or that you target isn't going to be at that type of event, then there's no need for you to do that. Like if you sell more junior clothing that's more like urban, clubby, sexual type clothes, there's no need for you to go to a business event. You know what I'm saying? So you have to research your events, make sure it is where you should be, and travel. That is another reason why where my biggest customer base is in a whole nother state from me. My biggest customer base on both of my Instagram pages are Atlanta. And then I have a lot of customers in New York, Chicago, and Houston. Granted, I haven't traveled to those places to do events, but I have networked online to get, a lot of customers there. So next, I learned that social media requires a lot of work. I knew that it would be work, but I didn't know it would require so much work and research and strategy and all of the planning that you have to do and planning out all your posts. And it's a lot. It's going to take a lot of time for you to master that sort of thing. Please give yourself months, if not years, to master this. Don't just think you're going to start off and you're going to be booming on Instagram in a month or two. It's not going to happen. It probably won't happen in 5 or 6 months. It will probably take you about a year to get to where you want to get and get a great momentum going just on social media. So don't be too hard on yourself once again if you're making mistakes on social media, especially Instagram, because it's a lot. And Instagram also is constantly changing and updating, and so is Facebook. And then you have TikTok now, and then you have Clubhouse now, and then there's always going to be something. It's going to require a lot of work. So don't be too hard on yourself once again, or don't be having such unrealistic expectations and thinking that you're going to make, just skyrocket things when that's most likely not going to happen. Next, I learned this probably about a year or so in, to stop comparing. I had to learn that I needed to stop comparing my boutique to someone else's. I need to stop comparing my journey to someone else's. I could not be comparing myself to a boutique that's been open for 6, 7, 8 years and is making millions of dollars. I can't compare myself to that when I'm just starting and I'm on step like 12 and only been open for a year. So one main way that I stopped doing that I made it easier for me to stop doing that, was that I stopped following any boutique. I do not follow boutiques because, well, I'll change that. I don't follow bigger boutiques because I don't want to compare myself. I follow clients, yes, because, you know, I may want to help them out, or I may need to have to like see their Instagram and things like that. But other than that, I do not follow any boutiques for inspiration. I have never gone to any boutiques pages and looked at what they had and decided to find a vendor and purchase it myself. Never done that. So I don't get why people do that. Like, if you know who your customer is and how to buy, you shouldn't be going to anybody else's pages trying to figure out what to buy. Like, I don't get why y'all do that. Not trying to say anything bad, but I just don't get why people do that. If you know what you're doing, just do it. There's no need for you to go to somebody else's page and get inspiration. No. Next, I learned very, very early, I would say within like my first month, that there is money in your email list. I, from the jump, made sure that I called a lot of attention to my email list, and my email list grew very quickly because I knew what I was doing when it came to that. I am going to be putting up a video tomorrow, actually, because this video is late when y'all see it. So my video tomorrow will actually be about me emailing my subscribers in the middle of the night and about a sale, and I'm going to show you all what happened and tell you all what happened. So it's kind of like a little story time. It won't be long at all. So yeah, but there is money in your email list. So you don't own your social media. You think that you do, but you do not. Shutdowns happen a lot. Crashes happen. At one year, what was it, 2019, Facebook and Instagram shut down a bunch of times, and people were freaking out because they were losing sales. I did not. It would be times where I would take social media breaks. I wouldn't even get on Instagram for like a month or two. I was still getting sales. Why? Because I had my email list. So you need to be calling attention to your email list. You need to have a great email host. I highly recommend MailChimp. I'm going to be doing a video later on this month where I kind of walk you through a few things on MailChimp, and then I'm going to do an actual masterclass to show you all how to use MailChimp effectively, so that way you get the most out of MailChimp if you use that. But that's what I've been using for 3.5 years, and that's the one that I recommend. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Next, ties into what I just said. Take breaks. You do not have to work every single day and burn yourself out and suffer from overwhelm. I did that, and it got to the point where I didn't even want to do this anymore. But it was because I was taking on too much and I wasn't taking any breaks. I do not work on Saturdays if I can help it. If it's something that I really, really have to do, I would do it. Other than that, I don't get on my Instagram, on my business Instagram like that. I don't get on my business Facebook like that. I don't answer DMs. I don't answer messages unless it's something like really serious or something, you know, something really super quick. But other than that, I take a break from work on Saturdays. Sometimes I may switch it to a Sunday instead. It just all depends on what's going on. But majority of the time, Saturdays are my day. I don't work for nobody, and I'm not getting on here for nobody. So make sure you have a day where it is just your time. Or there are times where I may have to work every single day because I may have a lot going on. So what I may do, I may just make sure I have a few hours throughout the day that are just for me, which majority of the time is really, really late at night. So that's when everyone is asleep and I can have my me time, no noise, no TVs, no nothing. I can sit on the couch, play my game, eat ice cream, eat Oreos, whatever. And it's just chill time. Like right now, it's about 2 in the morning as I'm filming this because everybody's asleep. And last, tying into that, you have to know when to be productive. You have to know the difference in being productive and being busy. They are not the same thing. A lot of people think that when they are busy, they're getting a lot done. But then in reality, they look at everything that they've done in those past 3 hours and they didn't do anything. You know why? Because they weren't productive. So what I did, because of course I love lists and planning and organizing, when it got to the point where I was just taking on too much with the assistants and the YouTube and my boutique, I sat down and I came up with a schedule. So on certain days, I do certain things. So Tuesdays are my days to film YouTube videos, schedule them, answer comments, all that stuff is strictly YouTube, and then I'll do other few little things. Wednesdays are things that I may need to do for my website, whether it's to make graphics, things of that nature. Sundays are almost always for photo shoots and planning, so planning and photo shoots my piece. So have certain days where you do certain things. So I do certain things for my boutique, but I'll always ship every day. That's never on a certain day. That's every day. I'm always packing my orders. It don't matter what day it is. But other than that, I do certain things on certain days. And I'm telling you, when I did that, it was a huge weight off of my shoulders, especially when I was still working another job. And then of course, when I was pregnant, like all of that, it was very stressful. So once you figure out a schedule, even if you just have just the boutique, figure out certain days for certain things for like your house. You know, if you need to clean up certain things, you need to organize certain things, you got to do certain things with your kids, your husband, or your mate, whomever, whatever it is you got to do. Write out a schedule for yourself, and of course, include a day or a time block where it's just for you to take a breather and a mental break. Okay. All right, y'all. So those are the things that I learned. I probably missed a few things, but those are my top things that I learned while in business for 3.5 years. I'm going to say one more thing too. Your branding and not only is it important, but it really isn't what you think it is. Branding is much more than just a logo and colors. I had to figure out my entire brand identity as a whole, my brand voice, brand handling, which includes what happens before customer purchases, post-purchase, my packaging, all of that stuff deals with branding. So that's something else that I learned, was to create an entire brand. And that takes a lot, and it takes a while to learn. If you want to know a little bit more about that, I do have an ebook that's been super popular over the years. It's called Creating Your Brand Identity. I do recommend that. And I'm also thinking about creating a branding masterclass. Let me know in the comments if that's something you all will be interested in, because I think that's something that a lot of people mix up and they don't really understand. Let me write it down because I'm going to forget about this. Branding masterclass. Okay, so anyway, like I told you all, next video, it will be posted tomorrow because like I said, I'm posting this video a day late. Next video will be all about me, like I said, sending out an email to my subscribers in the middle, like literally like 11 o'clock at night, and just seeing what will happen. So we're going to talk about that in the next video. And once again, from that little promo that you saw, make sure you all do join that boutique intensive. It is going to be a lot of information I'm going to give to you all for those 5 days. And it's not just the 5 days. You will have access to me for the entire month of February, starting February 8th. The classes will be live throughout that week at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And then you have access to those classes all throughout the month. You'll have access to me for me to check your homework or whatever it is that I'm going to be assigning you all to do, so I can make sure you all understand what it is that I'm teaching. So it's going to be great. Back in January, I had an Instagram intensive. A lot of people like that, and I'm going to be doing that Instagram intensive again in March. So if you all are interested in that, please let me know. But there will be links to everything in the description box, of course. So I will see you all on the next video. Bye.